Right then, morning after the night before, Manchester United beat Burnley 1-0 at Turf Moor, grabbing a very much needed 3 points and a very much needed clean sheet. So let's have a look at the 5 things that we learned. Number 1, Bruno Fernandes. Again, we covered last night just his lack of on the ball, more symptomatic of the team than his individual performance, because Bruno, I thought, was quite dynamic when he actually got on the ball, and that was one of my major complaints last night, really, is that we've got this player that's so good. Other teams with a player that's this good are getting him on the ball constantly, and United really struggled to do that. But it was a big performance from him when it was required. Really stepped up when he needed to, scored a sensational goal. And when a team is in a dark time, you want your leaders to step up and drag them out of that. And Bruno actually went and did that for United. One of the most disrespected players I have ever seen in a United shirt, and I think he's excellent. And is he a bit petulant? Yeah, 1,000,000%. But so what? Because he delivers on the pitch. So just get over him being petulant. Not every single person's going to have the stoicism of Roy Keane. Evra could be petulant. Rio could be petulant. Rooney could be petulant. Just because Rooney would kick someone and do it in a, what's perceived as a more manly way of doing it, doesn't mean that, he cares any more or any less than how Bruno does. Just accept this is who he is. And he's also a really good footballer. And, if people give a shit like he does, we'd probably not be in the situation that we find ourselves in right now. Number 2, Jonny Evans. Quite surprisingly, I think Jonny Evans is one of the biggest talking points from his first Premier League starts with United this season. And it's mad, man, because we spoke to Jonny in San Diego when we saw him, and he had no idea what he was doing. Genuinely no idea what he was doing this season. And we asked him how he ended up training at United, and he was like, he just got in touch and asked if he could stay fit while he figures out what he's going to do as a club, right? And he was like, I'm just seeing how it goes. He goes, managers asked me to sign on for, initially it was those 2 games, wasn't it? Was it the Leeds game? Was it Lyon and Leeds? Something like that, anyway. And he's asked him to stick around for a couple of games. And we're all thinking this is like maybe a Tom Huddleston sort of situation where what a great character to have around the dressing room for the youngsters in the under-21s, a bit of a coach on the pitch. What a great way to honour a guy that was, a bit of a stalwart academy player for United. He's won the league here. He's gone on and done great things at Leicester. Top bloke. What a great way for him to see out the last bit of his career. But that's not been the case. And I don't know if it's because of the level of injuries that we've got. I'm not sure the situation, but the fact is, he's gone and played a full Premier League game where he's had a massive say in the result in a really, really positive sense. I mean, he arguably should have came away with a goal and an assist yesterday. But he was linking play. He was finding Bruno more than just from the assist. He was active at set pieces. He was very unlucky not to have scored when it was ruled out for offside. Just a really solid performance from him. Mind blowing. As I said yesterday, Ben texted me at the end of the game and said, Jonny Evans is the reason we paid 80 million for Maguire, and I don't know if there's been a truer sentence said about him. Very, very solid performance from him. And to be honest, I was worried because on pre-season, he was poor. And if we were dishing out contracts on the back of the Wrexham game, I'd have shook him out his hand and said, good luck with the rest of your career. But, the manager's obviously seen something about him in training. Maybe it was just a particularly bad game for him against Wrexham, which, everyone's allowed to have. But yeah, I'm trying to be honest here. The guy was poor on pre-season from what we saw. But you can't argue with what we saw last night on the pitch in the Premier League. So, well done, Jonny Evans. And I think the next time he's in a squad, I don't think there'll be quite the murmurings that there was prior to him starting that game last night. Number 3, a bit of a refreshing away performance, and I will caveat that with the fact that it's Burnley who are yet to win in the Premier League, it's Burnley who I predicted would go straight down. I got a lot of shit for that, by the way, because of how good the football is that they play, but like I said, there'll come a point in the season, and I think about October is when that will come, in all honesty. So I think we played them at a good time. It will come a point in the season where Vincent Kompany has to make a decision whether he sticks or twists. If he sticks through with his philosophy and they just manage to stay up, he'll be vindicated, he'll be justified, and he'll probably go on and build that. And you would expect Burnley in a couple of years to be back to where they peaked at under Sean Dyche. So, like, you're creeping into the top half of the table, putting a little bit of pressure on, surprising some teams with some mad victories every now and then. But realistically, that's the ceiling that you're looking at for Burnley, I would think. I don't think they're going to go and do a Brighton-level transformation where you see them push into and sustain campaigns in Europe. I don't think. However, if he doesn't see them getting enough points to stay up, if he doesn't see them being able to continue playing the way that they're playing, if he needs to see them maybe go a little bit more direct, you got to remember that the Championship and the Premier League are very different. And it's one thing to be a bit of a ball-playing team in the Championship. It's another in the Premier League. And you have to be very, 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 very good at it to do it in the Premier League. You know, and they're holding possession at the moment a lot with, you know, I mean, James Trafford was like the third highest pass completion in the game, with many more passes than most of United's team. When you're holding it all in your back line, you're not really threatening people. So he needs to find a way to be able to move that ball playing forward. Once he starts dictating it in his midfield and with his number 8s, then there'll be a problem to people. But is he going to get the time to do that, or is he going to need to switch it? But like we said, it was a refreshing win on the road for United. The clean sheet, I think, was a big one. I think Onana needed that, and I think the team needed that in a big way. Second half was quite boring. I think United managed the lead a little bit. It was nice to see Amrabat introduced, although he did nothing but, you know, give a foul away. But, you know, hopefully now as you start to see Amrabat in that Manchester United team, because we got dominated there at Burnley with the ball, right? But we got dominated because you're asking Scott McTominay and Hannibal Mabry to sort of do the ball playing for you. And like I said, Bruno wasn't on the ball anywhere near enough. I think Amrabat is going to really, really up United's possessional play in a big sense. And I can't wait till he's fully match fit, because the new signings have been good when they've come in. We just haven't seen all of them, you know, and that solid spine. I think when you see Varane alongside Martinez, Wan-Bissaka gets back, Reguilon's fine at the moment. He's putting in some fantastic shifts, so we're not really quite missing Luke Shaw. But in midfield, yeah, you need Amrabat in. Casemiro probably needs to find a week off somewhere if we can do that for him. Him and Amrabat will start clicking together. Then you got Bruno, get him on the ball a little bit more because you've got that solid base behind him. Marcus needs to level up his game in a big sense. But Højlund's looking like a bright spark, and then we just got to figure out what happens on the right hand side, and it might be Mason Mount. So, you know, was only Burnley, but there's a lot to say about that. Number 4, VAR again. So United and referees have not combined well at all this season. And people will call this sour grapes. Non-United fans will call it sour grapes. But anyone who's a United fan or anyone who's a neutral with a brain will acknowledge that United have been on the end of some really, really iffy decisions. And those iffy decisions don't seem to fall United's way. Despite the fact that Craig Burley will make videos about stuff where he's like, obvious dive, when it's obvious someone's been tripped, you fucking melon. United have been really on the wrong. It's just consistency, because you're seeing some things go for United and some things go against United that doesn't happen at other clubs. You know, the McTominay incident, as an example, that gets given for other clubs. You know, he wasn't in his eye line. He's close to him. You know, freely admit. It's Trafford that's doing the pushing on McTominay, not the other way around. The ball goes in between them, so you can't tell me he was in his line of sight, because that's just factually not correct. For me, that should have been a goal. And you see the one that City scored that, you know, and here's the thing. There'll be TalkSport debates about why United shouldn't have had that, even though we didn't get that, whereas Manchester City did get it, and there'd be nothing. And it's fucking draining seeing it all the time. You know, I don't think there's enough consistency, especially when you look at, you know, some of the handball decisions. Yes, that's obvious handball. There you go, handball, not a problem. And then United get handballs, and You know, the handball from Christian Eriksen against Bayern Munich. How was the Spurs one not a handball? You know, there was one in the Wolves game as well. People want to talk about the penalty in the Wolves game. They don't want to talk about the penalty for United in the Wolves game either. Consistency is all we want. Number 5, no easy games in a Prem. Now, I know it's a little bit of a cliche to say, but it's also a little bit true. There are no easy games in a Prem, and every game is a scrap. Manchester City might disagree. They're flying at the moment and looking untouchable. But as United at the moment, in the situation we're in, there is definitely no easy games in the Premier League. It doesn't matter whether we're playing, Burnley, Chelsea, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, Wolves. They're going to be tough games, and you really do have to turn up. You can't really cruise into a game and just half-arse it. You actually have to put a shift in all the time. Now, it seems like Reguilon's not injured. He's just ill, which is, a little bit of breathing room, but he was holding his hamstring, and that does worry me a little bit. Every single game United go into at the moment is pure 50-50, and we need to get our squad back injury-free and fresh, which might be difficult for us to do, but we've got to find a way to do it, because once we get those players back, this United side is capable of doing it. But without them back, this side is really capable of losing to anybody. And the performances haven't been good enough. And when results follow performance, so if the performances aren't good enough, you can get away with it for a couple of games. Ultimately, the results will go the way that they deserve to go. So you have to stay on top of your game. And at the moment, it's going to be a case of managing the injuries. Don't rush people back too quickly, because that's going to potentially aggravate those injuries, and that's not what we need. So it is what it is. It's 3 points, it's a clean sheet, and it's on to the next one. Let me know your thoughts on the game. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.